This was the inflection point in the workshop, because now I know that I need to find a way to introduce the element of challenge and the element of difficulty and the element of struggle, and I have to find a way with these youngsters to, as I promised to them, I will talk to them as adults and build in them confidence, and also give them the true realistic story of the challenge of the third journey. And
I think you've got like a high school, desperately needed high school course here. Because, you know, who is teaching them these things if they're not getting them from through their family life? They're certainly not getting this intelligence at school.
To understand that life is a process, and love the process, become great at the process, because the process will serve you in anything you will do. Understanding and enjoying the process, realizing that where you might be in the process, those are tools that obviously are applied to everything you do.
Something that resonates very strongly to me from this is the importance of getting to the core principles of things that are enduring. Because I remember my children, when they're like between 5 and 10 years old, they're at what we call primary school, and the teacher showed a video, and it was saying that most of the jobs these children are going to go into don't exist yet. So they had the challenge of educating the children who are 5 years old for a job that doesn't exist yet. And the focus there was on the character, I guess, of the children, and helping them form what they needed to do to be able to respond to the unknown. And what you've presented here is some very core principles that are very robust and that you can apply in lots of different ways.
this is a conversation, actually a mini workshop about the future and about the teenage years and their journey into the future and how to thrive in today's world and in the world of tomorrow. I was invited yesterday to conduct a mini workshop with a global group of teenagers. They call themselves the Futurists because they intend to be in the future. And they asked me to talk to them about starting a business. And it ended up being about a lot more than starting your business. It ended up being an exploration into the journey of life at this time and how to thrive in the world today and in the world tomorrow. And because of the private nature of this event, it was not appropriate to post it to portals, but we felt, and based on the comments that we received, that it would be too precious to live and lose for time, because this stage in the game, mostly I get to do a one-off something and I move on to the next thing. And so I reached out to our network of portals friends and asked if there are a few people that will be available within 14 or 16 hours to show up in support, so that there may be a way to do so by creating a shared vessel rather than me talking to myself about it, which would actually not work. And we have had a response that said, yes, let's do it. So we have a few of the portals friends here with us, and we'll bring their voices into this in a few minutes. To get us started, I would like to lead us through a brief meditative process that will get us inside the space where we are ready to bring our best to the young and share our best with the young. And it's the kind of meditative process that I engaged in before conducting the workshop yesterday. And I also feel that it will be constructive to have this at the beginning of the recording for anybody watching this, because the rich information, very rich information we're about to share, will be better received and better shared with others through the mindset that this meditative process is going to produce. So we will do that. Then we will go over how I prepared myself for the workshop, what are the considerations that I had to take into account. Then we'll do the opening that I did with them yesterday. Then we'll bring some of your thoughts and insights and just how is this coming across. And then we'll dive deep into the content we actually worked through with them yesterday. And we'll see how it plays. So you may choose to close your eyes with this, or you may choose to do this just as the way you are. I would like to ask you to now travel with your thoughts, travel with your mind to when you were 13 or 14, 15, 16, 17. That's the age range that I met with yesterday. And perhaps you can even think about a specific place or point where you were trying to do something. Perhaps you were trying to learn to play a musical instrument, or perhaps you are pursuing a certain athletic achievement, or you're somewhere observing something that is going on or talking to somebody. Perhaps you're noticing somebody you're attracted to, or somebody that intrigues you. Or perhaps you are wondering, what are these adults around you, what are they talking about? And why are they talking about it? Just I'm going to go quiet for a moment for you to capture a few mental photographs from that age and what it felt like being a 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, and now begin to imagine how you move through time and how one thing leads to another, and you're getting through your teen years and somebody offers a wonderful advice, and somebody else in another moment, sometime later, gives you a real hug just when you needed it. And then somebody trusts you to do something, and you're feeling for the first time that somebody believes in you, and they trust you to do something that you didn't think you could do. And then you're into your early 20s and you proceed through life, and there's some challenges and obstacles, but you find the internal resources and strength and resilience to overcome these challenges. And again, there is somebody you know, somebody you didn't know, but they are there right, just in the right moment to offer help, to offer support. Then you're starting your career and you're working in one place or another, and somebody believes in you and they challenge you to do even better, and you're discovering what you're able to do, and you proceed into life and into and through your 20s and into your early 30s. And just one chapter after another, there are challenges, there are obstacles, but you are finding the inner creativity, the resourcefulness, the resilience to overcome challenge. And through this journey, there are so many people, known and unknown, people you didn't know, who in some miraculous way show up just in the right moment to help make your journey a successful one. And how many people have actually been in the network that has enabled you to be the person you are today. Just consider how many people conspired through your life to help you. Okay. And so here you are today with all that you've been able to accomplish and learn through the journey of life. And now I want you to imagine, please, somebody you know, somebody you love, somebody you care for in these ages, the 14, the 15, the 16, 17. Maybe it's your son, maybe it's your daughter, maybe it's somebody you know, perhaps a youngster on the other side of the world, somebody you can imagine and visualize, and try to, for a moment, feel what it feels like today to be a teenager in this confusing, strange, bewildering world. Try to feel what they must be feeling today. So now try to imagine and visualize yourself. You see that young person, bright young person, and visualize, imagine yourself standing right next to them, perhaps to the left of them, and half a step back. They kind of know that you're there, but maybe they don't, but maybe they do, but you're there and you're seeing them. Try now to imagine how together you begin to flow through time and you're accompanying them through their teenage years and how they are encountering a difficulty but finding the strength to overcome it, and how something else happens and they allow themselves to be mischievous, to, as they ought to be in their age. And then through it they discover another meaning and another depth in what just happened. And you're there, you're seeing them through the experience. But then something else happens and they run into another obstacle. And they find a friend, somebody that helps them along this journey, and they overcome the challenge. And they are now into their early 20s, discovering life, discovering the world, discovering themselves. And you're seeing step after step how they become stronger, more resilient, more resourceful, and how they discover in themselves creativity, imagination, capacities they didn't know were there. And you flow through time right next to them and you see them now into their mid to late 20s, and you're seeing a radiant person, somebody that others are looking up to. They are beginning to discover their true strength and develop their charisma and presence, and perhaps a leader to the people around them in whatever theater of opportunity that they find that is right for them. And you now see them right next to them into their 30s. becoming the wrong person. And you know that they have what they need, they have what it takes, they have all the resources, all the interior resources to confront any challenge and to make the most of the opportunities. And I just imagine that for another moment, how they take that into the rest of their living journey. Thank you. So that was the mental space that I wanted us to create, because we are now right there in the place of service and support and encouragement to the teenagers in this world. And we know that our job as elders is to offer this generational transmission, so that they know that they are not on their own, are not alone. Even when they are on their own, they are not alone, and that we are working on their behalf too. So that was the space I endeavored to enter before the workshop. And then there are three questions that I always ask myself before conducting any workshop, any event. I ask myself first, what is the most relevant information I can share that will be most productive, most helpful for the people I'm about to work with? And then I ask, what are the feelings and the sentiments that I want to accompany this information and knowledge? And thirdly, I ask, what is the energetic nature, the wavelength, the energetic properties that I must generate, such that the feelings and sentiments and the information I want to share can actually be naturally internalized by the people I'm about to work with. And as I went through this internal examination, where it comes to the information, I've found that you never need to try to give complete answers. Because if you give complete answers, it's no longer interesting. There is nothing for the other person to do. We are much more effective with people when we can offer a direction, a trailhead, some pathway that they can then discover for themselves. So I set out to create and share with them several pathways. And then I ask myself, but what is the feeling, what is the sentiment that you want to convey with this information that you hope will be practical? And it was pretty instant to realize that it's not easy being a teenager in this world today, and that I wanted to offer encouragement, and that I wanted to offer a sense of confidence in them and strength, knowing that I have a complete, utter confidence in me about their ability to succeed in the world, to transfer that unreserved belief and confidence in them. And then thirdly, I needed to answer, but what is the energy that I need to generate? And since my son is now 35 years of age and my granddaughter is a little more than 2, I am not regularly in conversation with teenage years, and I never assume that I'm on the frequency range, the wavelength that is needed for the circumstance, especially in dealing with those 14, 15, 16, 17-year-olds, because something quite special happens around this age. There is a certain transformations that occurs, and they are, during that age, they begin to experience an inner divergence of different voices. So they experience the body and all that's changing in the body hormonally and so on. and they're experiencing their brain and all the jittering noise in their brain and the inner chatter and what that means. And then thirdly, there is another dimension, which are the beginning of the waking and coming into life, different inner voices, what we will later call the inner conclave, which for them is largely semi-conscious, but a sense of those inner lives. And those three, the brain and sometimes the mind, but a lot of it is the brain, the body and the hormonal and the inner lives, they are not always synchronized at this age. So how was I to approach this? And what I decided that I needed to do was I needed to get on the wavelength of the teenage years, and I never assumed that I can just do it like this. So I spent 3 days actually getting on the frequency of it, and one of the things that it made me do, as I'm now demonstrating, it made me talk a lot faster than you will find me speaking in every other conversation on portals, because I recognized that that was the rhythm I needed to be if I was to keep them interested and engaged. I will not be speaking so fast all the time on this conversation, but that was the rhythm that I needed to develop for the conversation yesterday. And then there was one more consideration in the approach to this, which is that I knew that I have about 3 to 5 to 7 minutes for them to make a determination that they want to stay and that they are interested and that they want to trust this guy. So I had no second to waste. I needed to get right in there, right at the beginning, to let them know they could trust me and that they want to stay with me for the ride. So here is how I open, and I will now move to be speaking in the voice of yesterday rather than telling about it, so that there is the most authentic transference of the experience. I'll do the opening, then I'll pause and I'll ask you how is this coming across. And here is how I started. I said the following. I've been thinking a lot over the last several days about meeting with you today. And I have decided that I will tell you 3 things about me. And I will tell you these 3 things about me so that you know that you can trust me. And so that we build some rapport and sense of confidence with each other. And so that it also offers you easier entry for the very rich information that I'm about to share with you about starting a business and about the journey of life and living and about how to succeed and thrive in the world. And so the first thing I want you to know about me is that when I was 16 and I reached my senior year, because I started a little earlier, so I came to my senior year at 16, I felt a little confused, or very much confused and overwhelmed about the world. And the sense of confusion that arose in me was a combination of 2 things. First was that internally I felt powerful feelings. There were powerful senses and resonances and powerful intuitions. Feelings about myself, feelings about other people, feelings about life and the meaning of it all. And then right next to it, when I looked and observed most of the adults around me, they seemed to be operating in a different world. They were largely removed. And I felt that either they forgot what it was like, or worse, they were living in some kind of a lie about what was life about, because they seemed to be preoccupied with all sorts of other things that felt like 1 or 2 or 3 steps removed from what I was feeling. And so when I got to my senior year, I agreed with the school principal. Back then you could do this where I was born and raised in a kibbutz in Israel. I agreed with the school principal that I could be on my own in the school library, surround myself with books and tutor myself for the last year, and I will be writing my high school dissertation, and that will stand instead of all sorts of other exams. And I set out to write a 16-year-old, 17-year-old philosophical essay about what I understood life was all about and the meaning and purpose of it all in the best way that a 16-year-old can understand. And I begin the preamble for this essay by saying the following. I begin by writing, I write these words now and I write this essay now as an oath from me to make sure that I remember to remember, so that I will not forget to remember when I am into my 30s and 40s and 50s what it felt like being a young person in this world, and the kind of intuitions and feelings and challenges and hopes that arose at that stage. And I said to them yesterday, I'm here to report 47 years later into my 60s, and not only did I not forget, but that the feelings and the intuitions, they are as vibrantly alive in me, and in many senses they are even stronger. So I want you to know that I know you have strong feelings. I know you have powerful intuitions. I know you feel very powerful things about life and the world, and I want to encourage you to not let anyone, to not let the world divorce you, distance you from these feelings. You are important, your feelings are important, your intuitions, they have a part to play. Don't let anything in the world separate you from these important inner voices. That's the first thing I want you to know about me. The second thing I want you to know about me, I said to them, was that later when I became a father, and when my son reached the age of 12 and 13, I made a decision that I will talk to him as an adult, because I understood that part of the unique configuration that is awakened in the teenage years is that you are a 12-year-old or a 13-year-old or a 14 or 15 or 16-year-old. You are all these things. And you're also at the same time an adult in training. And there is already in you certain capacity that can receive and listen and appreciate as an adult. And oh, by the way, you still have in you the 8-year-old and the 9-year-old and the 10-year-old. And sometime when you get upset, those voices come out too. And that's all right. Part of the teenage years is actually discovering that you're moving up and down the timeline and you are a symphony of all these voices. But I know, and I knew with my son, that there is a part of you that is very mature, very sophisticated, very smart, very, very intelligent. So I said to them, I am going to address you, I'm going to speak to you, I'm going to speak to the smart, intelligent person in there, because I know you're very sophisticated, you're very smart. And one more thing, even beyond how smart you are running in the background the human operating system, and you are so intelligent and smart in that software and what it knows to do. You will know in the end of today the one or two things you needed to capture from today. And those are the things that I speak to you today that are not for today, but are more for the age of 24 and 34. You don't need to remember them now. Your system will deliver those up at the moment of need. You have that intelligent system running in the background, so you do not need to worry. All you need today is to find the one or two ideas out of a few dozens of ideas that I will be sharing with you that are relevant for you today. The rest, your intelligent operating system will deliver for you when you need it. That's the second thing I want you to know about me, that I trust that you are a very smart and intelligent person. And the third thing I want you to know about me, that I was lucky in my late 20s to find and meet with a very wise teacher. And this very, very wise teacher said to me, he said, I know you want to learn how to think about things. So I'm going to teach you how to think, and I'm going to show you a particular way of thinking. And what he proceeded to demonstrate was that if you want to think about one thing, because the way this world is organized and because everything is connected to everything else, if you want to think about one thing, you actually have to think about 6 things, or 9 things, or 12 things, or 16 things. You can never think just about one thing and think that will be sufficient. And I said to them, I have taken this to heart, and even though I did not feel on point that I fully grasped what he was saying, I took it to heart and I developed that practice. And this one practice that I've taken to heart enabled me later to develop a consulting, strategy and innovation practice, and brought me to later in life to work with senior leaders and help senior leaders in some of the most admired and most renowned companies in the world, and over the last several years to be one of the most highly paid consultants in North America, which practically means in the world. And I said to them, what I'm about to show you, I'm about to demonstrate to you this very process. I'm going to answer your question about how to start a business, but I'm going to show you that to think about that one thing, I needed to bring together an ecology of dozen different considerations. And I'm going to offer you the full sweep, because I do not just want to answer the question of how to start a business. I want to give you the pathway of how you can think for yourself and develop your own ideas. Not because you need to think the way I think. You will find your way to think as you. What I'm here to do is to offer the technology, the pathway, the scaffoldings for successful living, successful thinking, successful designing, and anything really you will choose to do in your life. So these 3 things, I said to them, I want you to know about me. First, that I didn't forget what it feels like and the powerful feelings and intuitions you have at this age. Second, that based on the way I have learned to speak to my son, who is now 35 and is running his own business and is employing in his startup educational technology business 25 people who are working for him, I will talk to the smart, intelligent you, because I know you are very smart, very intelligent. And thirdly, rather than just answer a question about how to start a business, I will offer you a complete pathway and a practice of thought that will give you the technology and the software to approach any subject on earth you may need to approach, because you have chosen that it is important enough for you. So this was my opening, and I then proceeded to the workshop and took them through 6 journeys. The last journey being the journey of building a business. So 6 journeys, and cover then the 4 ways to make money and 3 ways to be in business, and left them with some thoughts about the change, the transformative change that's coming for the economic paradigm, and why they are the generation that will need to learn to thrive in the current paradigm, but also find ways to thrive in the next new paradigm, while they perhaps help transform the paradigm. So that was all the intro. Before we actually embark on that workshop part, let me pause here and bring your voices, just how 2 or 3 voices, so that it doesn't feel like a one-way conversation. Even though I'm replaying a workshop that I conducted yesterday, how is this coming through, and what is coming alive in you just as you listen to the way I approach this, and as you imagine for yourself the young person you are hoping to encourage?
This is amazing because it brings back to exactly what you are on about. It's almost like tailor-made shoes that you can step into. And now I happen to be on about starting a business myself, so it was not at all hard to imagine. And I'm the father for 5 children between 18 and 31 years, so I just needed to think about each one of them in their different struggles and when they were teenagers, and so absolutely this is so inspiring. And to hear this, it's like something just fits the glove, or that fits the shoe, and that in itself is for me a melting beginning, because it can form into something that something else that lives in here once, rather than my own idea. So absolutely a good start.
It was absolutely enthralling. You really drew me in. And casting back to when I was a teenager, I really had no idea about how to approach the world. And what you seem to be offering is something that can be applied all over the place in lots of different ways, because there's so much information coming at children today from the internet and all that, and social media. It's hard to filter out what bits you can actually use. And what you seem to be offering here is something that can be applied quite generically to lots of different ways and provide a really good foundation. So I'm really quite excited to hear what you have to say.
Thank you, Gary. So yes, part of this was me asking myself, what would you have wanted somebody to sit you down and explain to you when you were 15 and 16? And that's partly how I approached this.
Yes, actually, I wish I had someone like you when I was 16 to tell me the things I hear today. Just to say that I had the privilege to teach young people in high schools for more than 10 years. And the last 2 years, I work with people from 20 to 25 years old in webinars. And a vital thing that I understood, which is vital not only for young people, but also for everyone who wants to remain young in mind and spirit, is that to always search what is the necessary steps in order to thrive in life, to do really, really well. And I'm very keen to participate tonight in this event and learn new things, which already you gave us some new things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi everyone. I think what caught me the most is there was so many things, but really, the incredible care and insight that you had to, travel to down your own timeline and to try to come out from that space. I think that, teenagehood, we've all been through it. And, I think some things are the same probably, but the world has changed. And I think that, I'm very interested to see where we're going to go next. But I just really thank you for your care and consideration, and just the things that you've shared with us so far. The fact that you spent days trying to tune in. I mean, absolutely. If you're not around teenagers, I mean, it was hilarious when you spoke. You started to speak really fast. I was actually driving with a teenager yesterday, and we were just the two of us in the car, and I was like, oh my God. Just trying to tune my ears into the speed that she was talking at. So I mean that it's these things, these observances, they help. How can you come alongside someone? So I appreciate that the journey that you've taken yourself on.
Well, yeah, it's easy for me to go back to those years because there were a lot of struggles in my world, in my life in those times. And so what you're saying to me is so valuable, because I think the most important thing that you can give a young person is a good way to think about things, because any specific answer, any specific guidance is kind of a one-off. It may work that day, it may work a week later, but it's not teaching a man to fish. And so these ways to think about where you're going and how to approach them and how to navigate the way all the aspects of your life are coming together and challenging you. And so it's the bigger idea of this process. You're in a process, and here are some ways to think about how to navigate that. So I think that's really invaluable at that age.
Great, thank you. So what I'm about to run by you is what could easily be 20 hours or 20 different workshops, but we kind of did it quite supersonically. And because, again, the idea was to put seeds. So I'm going to bring the slides we used, and I'm going to talk through these, and every once in a while we'll pause and get a comment from you, and we'll run through it. So I thought, okay, so where am I going to begin? The brief is, tell us how to start a business. But really, as Peter just said, I don't want to tell them how to start a business. I want to tell them, I want to introduce them how to think about starting a business, and how to thinking about any challenge in life. That is the kind of search that I went into. And so starting a business, they call themselves the Futurists. So this is the place to begin. And I said, I have to address first thing, the futurist journeys. And the emphasis is not on journey, but journeys, plural. Because if you're a young person, 14, 15, 16, 17, you are on a journey, but really your journey is made of several journeys that you are embarking on and traveling along concurrently. And it will become very important to appreciate those journeys one next to the other, such that you can consider all of them and their relationship. And I proceeded to propose that the first journey we each embarked on, really right from the time of our birth, is the journey of getting to know yourself. Who am I? And what am I like? And that is ideally a journey that never ends. It continues for us into our 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s. As Sophia just, as you said, Sophia, it's about being continually curious and asking, even later in life. And certainly as I shared with them, I'm not less curious. Perhaps I'm even more curious today. Now I'm curious about all sorts of things that I wasn't curious back then. But getting to know yourself is an important foundational starter. That is the first journey of a young person and of a futurist. And I suggested that some of the questions we ask in that first journey is, what is it like being me? What are my inclinations? What are my interests? What are my passions? And what are my talents and skills, and how do I learn? And specifically, how do I learn best? Because different people are wired differently, and different people learn in a different way. And then inside it, what is important for me? What is my purpose? And at that point, I asked for a few of them to share what have they learned so far about themselves, a talent, a skill, a passion. And one of them shared that she now I think 17 years of age, she discovered that she's very good at managing a task, and if she needs to do something by a specific time, she can manage herself effectively around this. And another one of the participants, she shared that she had found that she can, when she faces a complex challenge, she can bring help from other people. She can get the help of other people. She doesn't need to do it all by herself. And that she found a way to bring these skills. And it was a delicious opportunity for me to share with them that as they will go through their life and through their career and through whatever they will choose to do, there will be moments where they will develop what we call domain-specific skills. If you're an engineer, if you're a nurse, if you're a doctor, if you are a teacher, you will learn domain-specific skills about the subject or about the space that you are leading. And at the same time, you will also be learning what we can call as core skills, transferable skills. And in this case, the two examples they offered were core skills, because in any circumstance that you will find yourself, you will need to do more than just the very thing you do. You will need to manage yourself inside the tasks of that, and you will need to probably bring other people. So I found a way to invite them to the recognition that part of the journey of getting to know yourself is also the journey of developing core skills, skills that you will need to develop in any situation you will find yourself in the future. And so we chatted about this for a bit, and then I said, okay, so what do you think will be the second journey? If the first journey is the journey to know yourself, what must then be the second journey? And I like to, in these kind of workshops, sometimes engage, whether it's youngsters or adults in the work I do with senior teams, I like to engage people with some riddles, because I found that when you present to people a riddle and they need to struggle a little bit to get the answer, they remember the answer for a long time. And so then I offered the answer. In this case, we moved quite quickly to the second journey. And the second journey, after getting to know yourself, is the journey of getting to know this world. How does this place work? And I asked them if they have any example they could share with me from what they have learned about how this place works, and what are some of their learnings, because they have already been on these two journeys. I reflected to them for 12 or 14 or 16 or 17 years. And one of them offered that she had observed that people often, as they go through life, they don't necessarily fight to change something even when it's right. They kind of settle to whatever the circumstance is, often shaped by the environment that they found themselves in. And I offered that this was an astute observation, that indeed many people deal with the exigencies of life just through the lens of how can I get by and how can I survive. And nothing is wrong with that. In many circumstances, that's what you need to do. But then that there are also, every once in a while, you'll find somebody who is prepared to ask the hard questions and ask why, and ask the second why and the third why. And perhaps challenge the conventional way of going on. And perhaps that person becomes a change agent. And we chatted about this for a bit, and then I said, okay, but let me now offer some more ways and means, and some more of what I propose is inside the getting to know the world journey. And I suggested that one of the things we can learn to discover is how much this place is governed by polarities. Anywhere we look, we will find polarities. You look in nature and the way the world works, so there is light and dark, and there is day and night, and there are those living organisms that move fast and those that move very slow and those that don't move at all, that they are still. And then if you look not just in the natural worlds, but in the human manufactured and generated world, if you look into politics, you'll see that there are the conservatives and there are the liberals. And if you look in business, you'll see that there are the people at the top of the pyramid and the people at the bottom of the pyramid. So, and then when you look in yourself, you discover that there are those people and those situations that you are attracted to, and those situations and people that you feel that you're repelled by. So I propose to them that it's one thing to be played by the polarities of life, but really learning to understand how this place works is learning to recognize those polarities and learning to manage and play the polarities rather than be played by the polarities. And then I offered that the study of this world, it's compelling to look at nature. Because when you look at nature, when you look at the tree, you discover the law of the tree. And as is the case, that it will be very important to understand your nature and your strength and your talent and your passion when you will be thinking what business you want to build. So there was a tie into business. So much do you learn the law of the tree, because the law of the tree says that the tree grows from its own roots, not from the roots of another tree in the forest. So we may find ourselves somewhere in a position that we look at somebody else and we envy the position they are in. But if you look at nature, you never see a tree looking at another tree, envying that that other tree has a better position in the forest canopy and trying to imitate what the other tree does. No, it must draw the strength from its own roots. And there again, that's the law of the tree. But the law of the forest actually is that trees can help each other. And the root system of all the trees, they can support each other to grow. And sometimes the weaker tree is supported by the stronger tree. So all those ideas of the law of the tree and the law of the forest, you want to consider when you're going to be searching. What business do you want to build and how do you want to build this business? And then further, the recognition that the tree and the forest, they can grow because we run through cycles and the seasons. So whatever you're going to do, whatever business you will look to create, you will need to work on creating the ecosystem, the environment inside of which your business can thrive. And that comes into the very important appreciation of energy. What is energy? Why is this that everything in this world needs energy to work, to run, to develop? And where do energies come from? And what is the law of investment? And the law of investment, in a very brief way, I said to them, talks about the idea that anything you do before you look to get results, you must make an investment. And that even as we know in the case of a daffodil, before the daffodil will produce a beautiful flower, it needs to make the investment to grow a green stem that will be the infrastructure, the support to create the beautiful creation of the daffodil, which is the flower of the daffodil. That in the same way, when we embark on starting a business, we will always need to make some investment first before we can hope to reap the rewards and the return of that business. So this was me just seeding some ideas about why getting to know the world, getting to understand the natural worlds, and getting to also understand the human nature and human world, these are all so very important. At which point I said to them, can you now guess what is the third journey, if the first journey was the journey of getting to know yourself, the second journey is the journey of getting to know the world, what must be the third journey? And very quickly, one of them guessed that, yeah, the third journey was about putting the first and the second together. It was about journeying in the world and finding your way in the world and finding the way to succeed in this world. So this was the inflection point in the workshop, because now I know that I need to find a way to introduce the element of challenge and the element of difficulty and the element of struggle, and I have to find a way with these youngsters to, as I promised to them, I will talk to them as adults and build in them confidence, and also give them the true realistic story of the challenge of the third journey. And this is how I decided to do so. I said to them, look, the third journey, the journey of finding your way and finding a way to succeed in the world, is essentially you seeking to find alignment from what you have learned about yourself, your inclination, your interests, your passion, your purpose, what is important for you, to what are you discovering about the world. Because, for example, if you are to start a business, you will need to become observant and discover where are their needs and what are some ways for you to use your talent and skills and passion to meet certain needs in the world. Because unless you come from that place, if you are going to try and build a business that is in no way connected to your passion and your inclination and your talent, A, it will be horribly boring. B, you will not be successful. So now you begin to see, I said to them, why, if you want to build a business, you need to continually be on the journey of getting to know yourself, on the journey of learning to know the world around you, and looking to see the alignment that you'll have to create. But at that point, I said to them, here is why it is not so easy. Because your search to make the connection and alignment from the discovery of self to the discovery and deciphering of this place, that endeavor to make that connection and develop some opportunities to build true alignment, that endeavor always runs into challenges. In fact, you run into natural challenges and you run into unnatural challenges. And I asked them to reflect and suggest what were some of the challenges that they are seeing, that they are already coming up against, and that they are seeing that people in the world come up against. And we talked about how, for example, you may find yourself in circumstances where you will not be sure what is the way to answer the problems that you're surrounded by. And you equally may find yourself in circumstances where you have a talent and a skill and a gift and even a genius in you, but that up until this moment you never found the discovery of that talent. And you will actually, and that is an example for a natural talent, and actually the challenge you will face will become the opportunity for you to discover that you have a talent and a gift in addressing that need. But then I offered that the reason I introduced there on the deciphering side the natural world, the forest, and also the city life is because our today's world has still the natural worlds and all that's naturally part of this world, but it also has many unnatural persuasions, the like of which you see all around you. And I suggested that the media and business and the paradigm of the economy is not oriented to the natural growth of young people, and is not at all necessarily centered on the purposes of life and on unlocking the greatest creativity. and that there are some very right and very smart and very wise thing about the capitalist system, but there are also some very wrong and distorted elements in that paradigm that can easily pull you in the wrong direction. And part of your challenge in seeking to find that alignment between what it is you bring to the table and the needs and the opportunities in the world, part of that is you needing to stay tethered to yourself, so that is the natural challenge. How do you stay tethered and connected to your sense of self? And that it won't always be easy, and there will be times where you will feel confused and discombobulated, and you'll feel that you fell on your face, and you'll have to pick yourself up and get reconnected to your sense of self. And I assure you that you will be able to do so. You will be successful. But the essence of introducing this challenge was to invite them to recognize that ultimately, therefore, what this third journey is about, the journey of succeeding in the world, is a journey of a never-ending learning loop, a never-ending learning cycle of discovery and development and rediscovery and redevelopment of what you already thought you developed, and that is the way to succeed in the world, to decide that you are forever on a development journey. Being 20 or being 30 or being 40 or being 50 never means you have arrived. I've always aspired that one day when I'm gone, that my son will say about me that my dad, what he wanted was to continue to learn, and what he wanted was to always be a work in progress. So I'm here to report into my 60s that I'm still learning who I am and what I can do better. And I'm still deciphering this world. And more than anything, I invite you in your teenage years to recognize that that is the journey of life. The meaning, the essence of the journey of life is continual discovery and learning. And if you embrace just that one idea, you will be thriving in this world. So then I said, so now with this appreciation of the third journey, I want to introduce 3 more journeys.
Yeah, I'm, I don't know if you want to hear this, Aviv, but I think you've got like a high school, desperately needed high school course here. Because, who is teaching them these things if they're not getting them through their family life? They're certainly not getting this intelligence at school.
This is brilliant. The question that turned up for me, which you've already partly answered, was how do they not lose themselves? The world's far more complicated now than in my days, but it's very challenging. And I wonder if you could say a little bit more about, in the process of the constant learning and discovering, how they stay tethered and how they don't just lose themselves. Because a lot of people adopt a role and become the role needed for the company, but they lose themselves along the way. And what can anchor them? It just seems so important.
Yeah, beautiful. So the next 3 journeys will offer some pathways into that.
What strikes me the most is how simple it is. How, it has to do with oneself and one's surroundings and the interplay between these. This is absolutely simple and that kind of almost overwhelmingly simple, if there's something like that. But I'm very pleased that this is framed this way, because it means so much also for the inner lives.
Yeah, I like the idea of overwhelming simplicity. You'll see in a minute how that plays into something we are about to discuss later when we talk about the 3 ways to be in business. The real things, the core things, they are simple. And you're absolutely right. What they needed to remember out of this conversation is, okay, somebody gave me permission. That living is about staying tethered to myself, discovering who I am, discovering what this world is about and how it works, and engaging with those 2 through continual learning. And if I do that, I will be just fine. That's the message. Absolutely. Please, Peter.
Yes. Well, along the same lines as we were speaking earlier, that, to understand that life is a process, and love the process, become great at the process, because the process will serve you in anything you will do, understanding and enjoying the process, realizing that where you might be in the process, those are tools that obviously are applied to everything you do. So it's great.
Alrighty, so you all set us up nicely to look at these next 3 journeys, because what we said now was, so with that sense of engaging with continual learning, here are some critical journeys 3 more journeys to reflect on. And the first will be central to Gary's insight and awareness, which is how will a young life make sure that they don't lose themselves, they don't lose the connection to self. And we introduced that as you embark on this journey of you and the world, you and your environment, the first space you must continually navigate and manage effectively is your energy. Not just your one energy, but your multiple energies. Recognize that you are your energy, and that you have physical energy and mental energy and emotional energy and other energies that you are propelled by. And recognize that in certain circumstances you get energized and excited, and in other circumstances you get tired and depleted. And if you stay attuned, and if you develop the sense of attunement to your body, to your thoughts, to your feelings, and the energy dimension of those, you will be serving yourself very well. And that truly energy is the first currency of life, that life is energy. And so your job in the world, with all the temptations and everything that tries to draw your attention and distract and disrupt whatever it is you are doing, whether it's your half a dozen devices and technology and the media, listen to your energy inside. Practice, develop a whole set of practices about getting sensitized and attuned to your somatic energy, your mental energy, your emotional energy. Later you'll discover that there are other energies too, including spiritual energy. And then I asked them to guess what would be the next journey, the next space that if you are to find your way successfully in this world, you will need to learn to navigate and manage well. And as you would expect, quite quickly, one of them guessed that it was to do with other people, and that the next space is indeed learning to navigate and manage relationships, and learning to appreciate that there are multiple currencies we use in our relationships, and learn to appreciate how they work. Yes, we exchange words, but really what's inside the words is the energy, and what is carried with the energy are feelings, and what we cause in each other in our relationships, and what people cause in you, and what you can cause in other people are feelings. And sometimes we will cause in each other joy and exuberance and excitement, and sometimes we will cause pain and irritation. And learning to appreciate that is part of the transaction, that is part of the exchange with people. And then learning to look even deeper into the nature of relationships and appreciate that part of what you do when you interact with other people is you're looking to build trust, and you're looking to build openness. And these are some of the currencies of relationship: trust and openness and support and mutuality. And then that there is love too. And not only that there are different kinds of love. There is the parent-child love that you get to experience. I experience it as a child, I said to them, but one day you will experience perhaps also the parental love, whether towards your own children or even the children of somebody else. And you will also experience perhaps a different kind of love, which is romantic love. So learning to decode those different feelings and different natures and recognizing what are these feelings and currencies of relationship and how to work with those will become very important for you. Because if you would want to manage and build a business, you'll need to use your energy wisely, because you will ultimately be looking to mobilize the energy of others. And when you do so, you will have to be wise in how you cultivate those relationships, because whether you lead a team or you lead a business or whether you want to persuade people or convince them of your ideas, all of those will become very important, how you build relationship. And practically, those journey 4 and journey 5, the journey of managing your energies and the journey of managing relationships, they will go with you into any space, whether you choose to be a teacher, a counselor, an engineer, a leader, whether you will start your own business. Anywhere you will go through and with, and you will thrive because of the way you have learned to apply your energy and the way you have learned to cultivate relationships. And then I said, so now I'm ready to finally approach the 6th space, the journey of navigating and managing the economy and money. That's what you asked me to come to talk to you about, but recognize first that I needed to go through this entire journey, to go through these 5 journeys, because to discover how to make money, why we need money, and how to manage the journey of making money, and perhaps how to start a business. If we were to begin this divorced from these initial 5 journeys, you will get a displaced sense that business is something out there separated from life. And I want you to get my experience. I promise to you that I will be unreserved, that I will tell you the truth that I've found. And I've been so successful in business and with money and with life because I was able to find a way to stay tethered to the core truth of life, which was to stay true to yourself and to continue to learn about yourself and the world. And I've learned to manage my energies and my emotions and my feelings and my relationships. And these are ultimately the currencies that made me so successful in business and with money. And so I said to them, I just want you to appreciate this journey, because I got to a place that I'm able now to make a lot of money, not because I looked for money in the first place. Money was an outcome, was a byproduct of all these other journeys. I only discovered later in life that I wanted to make myself quickly financially free so that I could do more of those other important things that I want to do, which I'm now doing. So this is where we landed the 6th journey. And just before I am about to transition to the 4 ways to make money and the 3 ways to be in business, let me ask if you'd want to offer any other comment here. 1 or 2 comments perhaps. And have we addressed sufficiently, Gary, your question about staying tethered to oneself?
Only to say that following this line that is already laid out absolutely covers the essential that keeps up the spirit and the motivation in this life to be longing to actually mobilize the energy that is for more than oneself. That's the short sentence that come from here.
Yeah, and you have 5 children that are now all adults looking up to you, seeing how you are going to reinvent yourself at this point in your life, so that they get the inspiration and the demonstration that we never stop learning and we'll never stop reinventing ourselves. That if there is an exampleship that we can give to those younger generations, is that they see that we are into our 40s and 50s and 60s and 70s. We're still reinventing ourselves. That is the legacy we want to produce with younger generations, because they are will face a world that will go in the next 2-3 decades through disruptive transformations, as we are already seeing. And they will need to reinvent themselves. And what I wanted to impart to them was some ways and means and capabilities to thrive in this world, also as they prepare themselves to thrive in the world to come.
I think you answered the question I had before very simply, and that was to not put the money first is how you don't lose yourself. That's in a nutshell, distills it down very well. So brilliant.
Right, and the essence in the way you framed it is they are not mutually exclusive. You can, when you are tethered to what matters, to your values, to your passions, to your deeper inquiry. In some cases, it won't necessarily make you very wealthy, because it depends where it leads you, but it will let you journey in a sustainable way, because you will be replenishing yourself, because you're doing something that you believe in. In some cases, it will also make you financially free, because it will unlock in you your creativity and your genius. So yes, absolutely.
Yes, what you have presented is a canvas of so many ingredients that are all so useful, and it's a real synthesis, so necessary in life. And if I could add one more ingredient that I believe is worth it to advise a young person, and I always say to my daughters and their friends and the friends of their friends, is actually to try to create space in yourself in order to discover who you are. The first journey, getting to know yourself. You need to create space, to give yourself space. And one way to do this is to actually use your intelligence, your instinct, your brilliance, all those things. And I think we need all of them.
Yeah, very important insight, because in this busy, cacophonous, noisy world, people think that they just need to move faster and faster and faster. But what Sophia is introducing here into the cosmology of ideas is actually you need to speed up, you sometimes need to slow down. To increase impact, you need to create space. Because if you crowd the everything you do with too much, nothing will get to the depth and significance and potency of expression and creativity that will unlock a real difference. So that's a big one. Thank you. Well, so now I'm about to, and I'm going to do this one really quick. I took them through the 4 zones of making money. This comes out of, in this case, the cash flow quadrant by Kiyosaki and his work with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. This is a body of work that exists in the world, but I wanted to share it with them in this context, because I wish somebody explained that to me when I was 14 or 15 or 16. And these are the 4 ways to make money. The first way to make money is you get yourself a job. And when you're an employee, you're discovering that by giving your time and your skill or your talent, you get to get a paycheck. And there is nothing wrong with that. You just need to be informed and intelligent about the transaction. You are actually giving one of your most precious assets, which is your time, to receive money. The second way to make money is to be self-employed. In the case of an employee, you have a job. In the case of a self-employed, you own a job. It's kind of a difference, but not. In the first, you work for somebody else, but in the second, you work for yourself. But in both cases, you only make money when you work. So you are captured for your time in the equation of needing to generate money. So then I said and offered that there is another way, but before I offer the other two ways, I suggested that there is no moral judgment. On the right side, you have higher leverage, you have higher capacity to create for yourself more freedom. But it's not to say that it's wrong to be an employee, or it's not to say that it's wrong to be self-employed. If, however, you want to create financial independence and freedom, you may want to look at the third and fourth way, because they will offer you higher leverage. And the third way is to become a business owner. So you now own a system, and you have people that work for you. So my son, I explained to them, if you are on the left side, if you're an employee or self-employed, you only make money when you work. My son, he may be asleep, or he may be playing with my granddaughter, and he is making money right there and then all at the same time, because people work in the company, and also the company works by itself. There is a system, there is an engine that works, that generates revenue. So that's what's unique about that third quadrant. You own a business, you've developed a system that generates money for you, so you don't need to always give your time. Now, definitely you need to invest a lot of time, as we said, the law of investment, to actually build a business, and you continue to need to invest in the business. But the equation fundamentally changes. And then the fourth quadrant is the investor quadrant. This is where money works for you, money and assets work for you. Maybe financial assets that you invest. Today's world is very confusing. It's not easy to invest your financial assets in a way that will generate income. That is, I said to them, was a subject to a whole other call, not on this occasion. But you ought to know, I said to them, that you may have financial assets or real estate assets or other assets that will generate revenue for you. And all you need to know about this is that there are these four options. Because most people, when they are 14 or 15 or 16, they don't know that there are these alternatives. All they know is they need to get a job somewhere, and that the only option for them is to be an employee. And it is a decent option, and in some countries it is easier than others. But what you need to know is you have four options, and to the right side, you get to produce a higher multiplication equation where money creation, money generation is concerned. Okay, I, by the way, belong in a special category. I'll explain that a little later, because I'm kind of self-employed, but I'm self-employed in such a unique business that it actually affords me to operate in these two spaces because of the leverage that I've been able to create in the business. So sometimes there are unique cases of self-employment that launch you to the right side of the board because you've created a niche of one kind or another that liberated you, freed you up to be on the side, on the right side of the equation. And then I said to them, okay, you asked me to talk to you about starting a business. So how do you start a business? And more critically, when do you have a business? This was the riddle. And I shared with them that one day, my son just graduated from high school, and him and his friend, they had his first idea for a business, and they sat down in my office and they said they wanted to start a business. And I asked them, when do you have a business? When do you know that you're in business? And I asked them yesterday to play the riddle game. And somebody said, well, when you invest a lot of effort. And I said, that's a good answer, but it's insufficient because you may invest a lot of effort and you still don't have a business. Somebody said, well, when you develop a product of some kind. That's an important answer, but it's still not right because you may develop a product and you still will not have an answer. And when I had this conversation with my son and his friend, they said, well, when we have the name of the business, and even then you don't still have a business, and not even when you have the website, and not even when you registered your business with the government. All of those are necessary steps, but they actually, all they mean is you've made some effort and you probably already invested money, paid for the government, but you still don't have a business. What is the one thing, the one critical thing that defines that you now have a business, that you are actually in business? Anybody here wants to guess?
I'm thinking that, well, when someone pays you, when you have a client.
That's right. That's right. You are in business when you get the first client. What is a business? Business is a service or a solution or a product that a client or a customer will buy. You may develop the most sophisticated idea and product from the beginning of time and think you have a business, but before you have a client, you don't have a business. So if you think about it carefully, people sometimes will tell you that the purpose of a business is to make money. Not true. The purpose of a business is to create a client. When you create a client that you can serve, the byproduct is you make money. Money is never the purpose of the business. The purpose of a business is to serve a client. When you serve the client, you make money. That's the... So remember, we were in the 4 quadrants of money making: employment, self-employed, business ownership, investment. Now we're going deep on the upper right on how you can build a business. And my first question to them was, what is a business? And now we know the purpose of a business is to create a client. Now we see all the journey about why you need to study yourself and study the world, because if you're going to serve a client, you better serve a client with something you feel strong about, you have passion for, you have energy for, or else why will that client want to deal with you? So now, having done that, we had one more thing to accomplish in the workshop. We needed to talk about the 3 ways you can be in business. And I said to them, I'm going to walk you quickly through these 3 ways and then explain them and then give example for each of those 3 ways. So the first way to be in business is to become an accessible commodity. All right, I'll explain it here. I said to them, if you build a lemonade stand in the street corner and you have a lemonade stand, but the other side of the street corner, somebody else have their lemonade stand, then you're a commodity and they're a commodity. And that's great, but you may want to consider the 2 other ways to be in business. And the 2 other ways to be in business is, the second way is to create overwhelming value, and I will define and explain it in a minute. Even though Henning just told us that this was overwhelmingly simple, and that's one way to create overwhelming value, is to create something overwhelmingly simple. And the third way to be in business is to become mission critical. So then I said to them, let's define and give example. So we already defined the example of becoming an accessible commodity. There is a typo there. I didn't fix it even since yesterday. I didn't remember. This is when your product and your solution or service is needed, is accessible, is reachable, is affordable. But the key point about becoming an accessible commodity, that in that space you don't have control of the market dynamics. You don't even have much influence on the market dynamics. Your pricing strategy will be shaped by market forces. If there are 5 lemonade stands in the area where you're putting yours, you're going to have to find some way to be differentiated. Will you create a different recipe? So people will tell everybody, just go there because that's the best lemonade. Maybe then you will no longer be a commodity. Maybe you'll be a specialized lemonade. Maybe you will create a special ecology around your lemonade stand. Maybe you will produce special music around it, so that perhaps when people come to you, you will serve them and build relationship with them, so they will feel more loyal to you. You will have to think about ways to truly become differentiated, to escape the gravitational pull of becoming merely a commodity shaped by the market dynamics around you. Because if you are just an accessible commodity, you may be able to generate some profit. A lot of the time you will just barely survive. So I suggested to them, you may want to consider being in business in one of the 2 other ways. Create overwhelming value is when your product, your solution, your service, when it makes customers and clients enable them to achieve their objectives faster, in an easier way, in a more efficient way, in a healthier way, or in a more beautiful and graceful way. And in a minute I'll give an example to that, but let me first introduce what becoming mission critical is. Becoming mission critical is when your clients and your customers cannot actually achieve their objectives and fulfill their mission without your product, your solution, your service. I gave them 2 examples. If right here outside my house, right around that bush outside my house, if in that area, this plot of land, there is one of those very rare earth elements that the technology industry so desperately need to produce all those sophisticated technologies. And if that rare earth element cannot be found anywhere else in the world, but only in my backyard, I have something that initially was a commodity, but it actually is a very precious, rare asset. And because I happen to stumble on that plot of land, I own it, and I have something that's mission critical for some of the technology industries to thrive. Another example of a mission critical business, imagine that you own the shipping routes out of Madagascar. And imagine that in Madagascar there is a special brand of cocoa that's growing only there because of the unique climate. And so you happen to own all the shipping rights out of the country. You now have a mission critical business for some of the food industries where they would need to purchase these cocoa ingredients. And so you're in a unique position. They cannot fulfill their objective, which is to bring to market unique chocolate and or other products recipes that they can only generate with that unique ingredient, and you happen to own that part of the supply chain. You are a mission critical business. The 2 examples I gave made the point that it's actually very difficult to become a mission critical business. It can be done, but it's very difficult. And I gave them the example that I recognized when I went into consulting, that it was highly unlikely that I would be in a mission critical space. I therefore had only one choice, because I needed to, in 10 years, create the financial results of 30 years because I started late. And so my one choice was to create a wow impact and overwhelming value. And I found a way to do so by creating transformative experiences for people that I worked with, because I explained to them the one other thing you have to know about business. There are many smart people in the world. There are many good artists, there are many good teachers, there are many good all sorts of things. But the most difficult thing in business and the most costly thing in business is actually to acquire clients. Because as we said, the purpose of a business is to acquire or to create a client. And the proof point for it is just see how many millions and trillions of dollars are going into marketing. Why do we spend so much money on marketing? Because businesses are trying to create demand for their services and solutions and products. So I realized that if I was going to accelerate my business, I had to skip those intermediary steps, and I had to create the fastest way to acquire clients. And there are two fast ways to acquire clients. One is when you get one client, after you got the first client, get repeat business with that first client. Second, give the client so much value, give the client so much overwhelming value such that they will not be able to contain themselves, and they will have to tell their friends about their experience with you, and they will therefore generate for you referral business. The two fastest ways to acquire clients are repeat business and referral business, the two R's of accelerated business growth. And I found that the way to do this is based on something I shared on another portal's conversation with Peter and Kyriaki, when I talked about the wow insight. Why the wow protocol is the way to create overwhelming value. So I'm not going to repeat it here, and I didn't include it in the process in the workshop yesterday. But this was an example of an overwhelming value. And all I then needed to do was to put these together and to first of all demonstrate to them that we went through this entire journey to talk about how to create and build a business, the 4 ways to build a business, and the 4 ways to make money, and the 3 ways to build a business. And also demonstrate to them that I left empty spaces because I didn't want them to get the feeling that I completed the work. There was more to be discovered about everything we covered, including how to stay tethered to yourself and connected to your energy, and about how to build thriving relationships in the world. And we landed the workshop with simply suggesting that when we think about the future, and that they are very lucky to grow up in a world that is about to go and experience tremendous disruptive transformations, and that I trust and know with good certainty that they have all that they need to have to thrive in the current paradigm and also in the world to come. And if they are smart, which I know they are, and if they are intelligent, which I know they are, they will look to build and cultivate skills and capabilities that will carry them on the bridge and will help them build the bridge from the world of today to the world of tomorrow, and possibly make them in some shape or form participants in the bridge making from the world of today to the world of tomorrow. Because one of the things about the world of today is we are running on a paradigm that is not sustainable. The current economic paradigm is built on extractive businesses And we will have to move from an extractive economy to a regenerative economy. And so I suggested that they will be wise to study what will be the permanent line capabilities, the permanent line needs, the permanent line opportunities. That means permanent line to mean they will always be, they will be perennially needed. The skills that will be perennially needed, the opportunities that perennially will be there, and to build these capabilities such that they will meet the world of tomorrow with readiness. And I assured them that I already gave them the clue. The clue was to do journey 1, journey 2, journey 3, journey 4, journey 5 as they explore and inquire about the future. And with that, we landed the workshop.
I would say that what we experienced was not one workshop. It was 3 journeys and then 3 steps with navigations and management. It makes it 6. And then if we add the 3 ways to be in business, it makes it 9. And the 4 ways to make money, it makes it 12. It's so much more. So it was a pleasure to be in it. I don't know how would I react if I was a teenager. Probably I would have many questions and things to say and argue threats. So thank you very much.
I can only say, wow, that would change something in my inner lives if I had been at a very young age now.
Well, the same for me. I wished somebody said that to me when I was 16. It would have saved me a lot of heartache and pain and struggle. But then it was what it was, and it delivered us to where we each are. What is very important in the sentiment that you brought with you today in just turning on a dime, just a few hours after I asked, is there anybody on the network that's available, is we are all here with one shared sentiment. We want these youngsters to succeed. We want them to thrive. We want them to win. We want them to win and succeed for themselves, and also for the people they will touch, and also for the world they will build and create. So we have a responsibility to not hold back, to offer everything we can, and yeah, they will choose to pick up what they choose to pick up, and they will do with it whatever they do with it. Our responsibility is not to hold back.
Something that resonates very strongly for me from this is the importance of getting to the core principles of things that are enduring. Because I remember my children, when they're like between 5 and 10 years old, they're at what we call primary school, and the teacher showed a video, and it was saying that most of the jobs these children are going to go into don't exist yet. So they had the challenge of educating the children who are 5 years old for a job that doesn't exist yet. And the focus there was on the character, I guess, of the children, and helping them form what they needed to do to be able to respond to the unknown. And what you've presented here is some very core principles that are very robust and that you can apply in lots of different ways. And that provides a safe anchor and a point of sanity really to come from that can go everywhere. So I think it's brilliant, very concise. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm thinking that on one hand, it's a bit overwhelming, all the things that, each human alive, what they're juggling with living. And then you've got those who in the teenage years who are formative and, they're trying to make sense of a world that's changing. And so I think it's so useful for them to recognize that even for the people who are way down the road from them, it's changing for them too. It's not something that's just being put upon them, that they need to find the way. I think absolutely support and encouragement. And I think somebody said it at the beginning, it might have been you, Aviv, or one of the people that commented, the sowing seeds and planting seeds, putting sprinklings out there so that they know, something inside of them knows, they've heard it, they can do it. it is possible. There are pathways. And so I think that for me is such a significant takeaway.